Alright. Welcome to Jared's Bike Checks, where motorized bikes are a way of life. Let's get to it. So what we're going to have here is another safety meeting. Talk a little bit about the past tours that I've been on. And, just going to shoot this thing all the way through, guys. I'm sorry, but I've tried several times, and I ain't real good at this stuff, and trying to get better and better at it. So, hope this is under half an hour. I really appreciate everybody who's been checking out the 2018 and the 2020 tour. That's been really cool. I haven't got to everybody's comments yet because I've been struggling working it every day, and haven't really been able to get off early enough to get on YouTube and really work on comments and all. So I really appreciate all the comments. It always makes me happy, and I mean really happy to read the comments. That's how I know. I thank everybody for checking the channel out too. That's been watching the channel and maybe new to watching the channel. Really appreciate that. That's been really cool as well. So, let's get into it. In 2018, me and my buddy Tony took motorized bikes across America. It worked out okay. I had a pretty good time. I ain't gonna lie, he had a pretty good time. I guess good enough to go again with me. And we took the friction drive Bikeberry kits, and the clutches and bales didn't work out. So in the second trip here, Tony has taken the and I have both still used the friction drive kits, yet I backed mine up with a big metal plate. And but I put a two-stroke on it and got rid of the 38cc. And Tony's using the a 64cc two-stroke and way more fucking power. So he didn't fuck around. Colby's going with my friction drive kit that I had built, and which has the clutch, the scissor lift clutch. So you have a full clutch. It worked like a regular one, you know. You lift the clutch up, got an idle, you know, let it down, and it takes off. Cut down on a bunch of the parts, but I have since cut down on even more parts. I don't think it needs that many darn moving parts. It's not for travel. Maybe if for in-town cruising and being cool, you know, it's cool to sit there and idle at the red light, but not during travel. It's not necessary. It's, you know, mostly it spends its time 3/4 throttle, wide open, you know, hauling butt. So, I've only learned a lot of this stuff since the very first two trips, so it's taken a lot of schooling to learn exactly how, you know, something like this would work. You know, I'd seen a few YouTube videos of different people trying different type of motorized bicycle touring, but it just didn't work out. And I tried the bike motor kit, and it turned out to be pretty dependable around town and all, and not far from, you know, your major supplies. But to get away from town with it, it was too much of a... I think it's just the vibration. Just too much vibration would make something give out, you know, before you had a chance to get anywhere, and make you bring so many parts and pieces that it just wasn't practical to use it. Had big dreams for it though. Oh, let me tell you, the bike motor kit. Oh, I had big old dreams for those things, but they didn't pan out for me. Maybe for other people, you know, that they would pan out for, but they never did pan out for me. So then I moved over to that other friction drive style from the Bikeberry, and mostly because they just did everything for you, you know, like, oh, well, shoot, oh, they built the whole thing. I'd already done the weed eater bikes, and I just still wasn't smart enough yet. I still hadn't learned enough stuff about it yet to figure out what makes these kits work and what doesn't, you know. So one of the things I found is that the friction of these friction drive kits is mostly dependent upon air pressure of the tire. Yeah, so my secret sauce to friction drives is 32 psi. You don't plan on pedaling anyways, so put a little dip in that tire and the friction drives work amazing. I use smooth rollers. I don't even have any grit on them, although I've worked on putting grit on it for certain wet conditions, but my grit has just been to just wipe a finger coat of JB Weld on it. Last maybe 1 or 2 days, but works really well in the water, and yeah, rubs off back to just smooth metal roller after that. but you'll probably be out of the storm, in the first day, probably in the first few hours. Although my first trips that I posted on here, it still works in the rain. I had to lower it down to around 16 pounds for that. So, Colby ended up having to, well, I don't think I finished about Tony. So Tony ended up having to leave around Pascagoula because his clutch bell snapped with all that extra horsepower, that 64cc. Man, it snatched, boy, but it just snatched and twisted that bell to pieces. And we tried to get that welder to weld it up, but it didn't turn out too well. He tried as hard as he could, I guess, but it didn't do. It was ruined. He ruined it more than he did anything. He just ruined it. I'm not sure if Tony paid or not, but he probably did. But it didn't work. So he ended up having to call his old lady, come pick him up from Pascagoula. Not too far. And then Colby made it just outside of San Antonio, and he called his old lady. There's also a pandemic going on. There's a world of worries, building in the background for everybody that, but I mean, I didn't personally care because I'd already gotten sick in 2019 and felt like I'd already had whatever this was and figured I'm the one who put the spikes on it, so y'all freaking deal with it after that. Somebody got to be patient zero. I don't know. I thought it was, man, I was pretty sick in maybe September of 2019. It took about a month and a half to get better. Lost maybe like 22 pounds off of it, man, it put the hammer on me. I had to ask my buddy Tony, man, how do you live to be 60, man? I couldn't get sick like this, but just a couple times and I'd be dead. So, it didn't have a name, like China virus or fucking pandemic. I was calling it the walking death, so. But I think it was just a flu season or something. Who knows? Whatever it was, who knows? So I still headed out. I was a train wreck to go out on that 2020 trip. I had been waiting on it, and nothing was going to stop me, even a dang pandemic. But ultimately, the pandemic did stop me. It sent me home mad as hell. I got a chance to ride a train for the very first time. That was pretty cool. Empty, had the train to myself, so I mean that I guess was better conditions than most people get. So after Colby left in San Antonio, just outside of San Antonio, I finished going as far as I could, and between Sanderson and Marathon, everything turned to crap. My magneto went out and could not be repaired out on the road in the middle of the West Texas desert there. So, and knowing that it was going to be hard to keep going at all, it'd gotten crazy. Towns were shut down. McDonald's were shut down. Just everything was shut down. People didn't want to serve you. They were afraid you had the pandemic, I guess. I'm not sure what it was, but yeah, a lot of fear in a lot of Americans. And I'm sad to see all that. It was, that was disheartening is what I can say about it. It was very disheartening. I felt like it was Russia, and then all of a sudden, that didn't work, guys. That just fell flat on its face. Well, what about the pandemic? What pandemic? Well, we're making one up right now. So, but I mean, it was worldwide, so I'm just gonna deny that people got sick from it, but maybe it was overreacted. Yeah, definitely a lot of overreaction. So, we got out there. So I'm riding down that road. That magneto finally breaks. I end up having to pedal 25 miles back to the damn Sanderson, Texas, because at least there was a train depot, which was just a little cinder block kiosk that had a sign on it that said Amtrak. And I looked at that sign and I looked at it and I'm like, man, there's a 1-800 number. I called that 1-800 number and was able, through hook and crook, get a ticket to be picked up right there in the middle of the desert, right there on the side of the damn track. They stopped a whole train just for me. I was amazed. But they wouldn't take the bicycle. So that was a problem. So I took that bike and stripped everything off of it that I thought, but I left it as a regular good pedal bike, a high quality freaking pedal bike, and leaned it up. Just leaned it up, walked away. They would not let me put it on the train. Couldn't overcome that. Had no way of shipping anything or anything. On the first trip, I ended up shipping it home from Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is probably a terrible idea anyways. It cost a freaking fortune to ship a bicycle. So I wasn't ever going to do that again anyways. What else is there? I've been liking this talk right here. Let's walk out to the truck there and get ourselves a pack of cigarettes. Because somehow or another, Jared run out of cigarettes during the talk. Oh, you see, I got my big jackets on and everything now. Because winter happened here. It's 40 degrees and... like a freaking dinosaur. Like I said, I wasn't going to do no editing in this particular one. I even got a chance to try the camera light that time, which is something I've never used before, but I will remember in the future to use it more often. I didn't know that it was something I could use during shooting and all. I'm still steadily learning. I mean, steadily learning about stuff. I can't deny that. So we're back here in the old Bat Cave, which once it gets cold in here, man, it stays cold like a refrigerator in this mug. I'm telling you, I mean, it gets cold like an ice box. So where was I at? So I leaned my bike up and jumped on a train and stopped and stayed with my mom in Louisiana for I think maybe 2 days or something. What else was there? Oh, so check it out. So I had ended up the two-stroke motor that I had taken on this particular trip, the CAG motor. It was for those pocket bike motors is what I used. It freaking seized up after maybe 500-600 miles, 700 miles. Ended up ordering another top end for it. Had to wait in Del Rio, Texas for 5 days for it to come in. While I'm sitting there in Del Rio, though, at the campground, hanging out with this old boy, homeless in the back of his truck there. He said he was camping, but you know, camping, homeless, it was hard to tell. But when I was there, I had to sit there and wait for my parts to come in. Well, I thought they would come in eventually. You know, I was supposed to be overnighted. You know, yeah, I paid for all the overnight stuff, but I guess during the pandemic, overnight went to 3 to 4, 5 days, you know, that was as close to overnight as they were willing to get. So I'm hanging out with him, and I'm hanging out because it was a no services campground. It was like $3 or $4 a day, or $5, $6 a day to camp there, but I didn't have to pay because I was tent camping or whatever on a bicycle. But I paid to keep the pavilion. I gave them like maybe $20, you know, and held my pavilion. Actually, I switched pavilions every single night I was there looking for just the right angle. I finally got the one that was inside the trees because out in this area, frickin' trees are getting harder and harder to find, that's for sure. Out in Del Rio, where all those Haitians are coming up at. So I was, and they weren't there when I was there. I didn't see anything like that. As far as I could tell, Del Rio was a nice part of town, and across the border was the rougher side of town. So what I seen of Del Rio is a good-looking town. So I'm standing around at that Dollar General store, and that place gets mugged, man. I mean, they just come in there and buy everything that store's got. Holy moly, I needed to buy a little bit of alcohol. Never even thought that the world would buy up every piece of toilet paper and anything that had alcohol in it. And I mean, they bought everything. That was some crazy shit. I stood right there, what, dude, that carts and carts full. And eventually, just before closing, those 3 clerk ladies wheeled out their own shopping carts of some hoarded items. And you could tell they were like, oh, they got theirs. They got theirs. They were filled them cars up. I mean, they got a lot. I thought that was cute. Man, them people bought everything in there. I'd never seen nothing like that. A couple of days later, my old lady ends up calling me and saying, Jared, it's a third world country out here. They bought all the groceries. I'm like, I know, Chris. I seen it. I seen it from my own 2 eyes. I seen some yuppie family standing in there reading the Campbell's soup can saying, it says you can add a whole nother can of water to it. So it's like you get 2 cans for 1. And I'm like, oh my God, y'all never made a can of soup before, have you? That's pretty bad. That was pretty bad. So had we all run out of food, there's some folks out there, they would have starved in no time flat. I mean, no time. Probably turned cannibal or something. So I made it through the whole Del Rio experience. It was a really cool time. I had a great time while I was hanging out there. I ain't gonna lie. I had a friend to sit there and hang out with, or a friend I made. I wish I could remember his name right now. We'll call him Tom. I don't really remember his name. It was Dave, Tom, Max, whatever. I can't remember the dog's name either, and I really liked the dog more than I liked the guy. The dog had more character. Here's another cute one. When I was with Tony in that first trip, we'd pulled over at a community center in Alabama, figuring, well, it says community center, we'll hang our hammocks here. What could go wrong? And man, plenty went wrong that night. Dude, the cops were called. It's the only time I've ever got run off stealth camping ever. I think it was the only fire that I've ever started stealth camping ever. No, city stealth camping, anyways. You know, in the woods. Of course, it burned a fire, but we were at the community center, and I don't know. They didn't want us there, and we shagged. We got the hell out of there. We took the police's advice to leave and didn't ask any questions. Just got our stuff and left. We hadn't unrolled anything. We were just going to wait for the end of that concert before we unpacked our stuff. But obviously, they weren't willing to wait for that to happen. When I think of stealth camping, though, I mean, I'm thinking of movement. You know, you're moving, so you know you're not there for more than a night. Set your stuff up after dark, roll it up when the light comes up, and gone. So wasn't like gonna try to build a bum camp or anything. But who knows what they were thinking? They were probably thinking that very thing. I don't know. So, but we just went down the road and did it in somebody's driveway. For real. So, what do I care? Run me off again if you want. I don't care. I've never been arrested. So, I mean, I've never been arrested ever for anything. Not even a little bit. 18. By 18, I did all my hard living before 18. And since then, I have no record of any kind of anything. So, I have no fear of the police pulling me over or stopping me on the motorized bicycle for anything. It didn't bother me any. I'm a little more aggressive with them than they are with me, is what my old lady tells me. So settle down, Jared. You don't need to get so damn aggressive. Whatever, though. Let's see. Another cute one. Man, did I have some flats. I mean, I had so many flats. I tried to leave out on that freaking bike, dude, and it was a secondary bike to take. I had already put together one of these big bore kits, but the fat tire developed a bulge in it, and man, I searched and searched and searched, and I could not get me a tire for that thing in time. So I switched out bikes and took that Giant instead again, and the tires at Walmart, everybody had obviously already sold out of everything, even before I was leaving, or just they weren't restocked. All the Walmart shelves were still, the hooks were still empty, and I'm like, well, while I'm on the trip, of course it's going to be in the stores eventually. I'm just going to run into a Walmart and get what I need. I should have some 20-inch wheels, man. They got them everywhere. And I should have just got some knobbies because I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get me some nice beach cruiser tires. That's what I want. I want a nice, smooth, rolling tire. And, man, it took till after San Antonio to find the freaking beach cruiser tires. So I should have just got some knobby tires and at the first freaking Walmart I went in, because they had them at every one of them. They were just out of the beach cruiser tire. They had the comfort cruiser tire, but I didn't want the little skinny tire. I wanted one of the big old fat beach cruiser tire. And so I paid for that. I paid dearly for that. It was a real pain. When I show that I'm struggling that day to get caught up with Colby and Tony and them, they ended up going around Mobile on Highway 90 the right way. I ended up going through the Mobile Tunnel on a motorized bicycle, dude. I mean, there's a lot of signs that says you are not allowed in here. Right through that thing. It's the only way I was ever going to do. They'd made like 40, 50 miles ahead of me. There was no way I was going to catch them ever again if I didn't pull something. So I pulled something. I went through that Mobile Tunnel like a bat out of hell. Man, it's a big climb up out of it. It's down into the tunnel. And holy moly, what a climb it is to get out of that tunnel. I was like... that little two-stroke almost didn't have what it would take to get it. Basically, it didn't. So that's one of the reasons I've changed my build now. I'm using this 79cc Predator. I'm able to go slow up a hill, speed up going uphill. It doesn't seem to matter what the angle of the hill is. It pretty well pulls it. I also have the 2-inch roller on there, so it's a little more speed-oriented. But I can put that 1.5-inch roller back on there, and that was like a tractor pulling things around. So, but it topped out at like 18 miles an hour. So I like the 2-inch roller. It seems to be the best bell curve to the drive roller. For all the bike motor kit guys out there, it's the 44 tooth. It's the 44 tooth. It runs like the 44 tooth because I've run these, yeah. Top side around the 30, 35 if you're really giving it a whole bunch, At least Colby can do it, He's got it ungoverned. The motor I'm running still, dude, it's still fully governed. I haven't done a dang thing. On purpose, I haven't done anything. This should make it more inviting to other people to give something stupid like this a try, if they didn't think that they had to work on everything every second. But I've tested the motor for, nearly 1,000 miles now and did 150-mile day trips, so don't have to worry that I can't make good mileage in a day. 150 miles in a day, that's a damn good day. On a bicycle, that's an amazing day, let's be honest. So on my other trips, 60s and 70s, maybe there was 100-mile day. I was stunned by that. I was like, man, a bike motor is not giving me nearly the mileage I would have thought it would have. But both of those had a real problem climbing anything. And from here to California, man, anything's nothing but a climb. It's a climb everything you come in front of, including the wind. Man, the headwinds against those little motors, that little clutch. It was a clutch. It wasn't really the motors. It was a clutch and bell. They just it couldn't hold it, couldn't carry that much weight and, with that much friction on it. So it wouldn't. It would just start slipping. And I ended up pedaling my brains out. Or, better yet, hopping off time to do a safety meet and smoke some cigarettes walking up this hill. Because, I'm always interested in stopping and walking for a while, smoke my cigarette, crank me a couple out real quick. Maybe walk for 2 or 3 cigarettes just because, get the feed back in, feed myself some nicotine. So yeah, it was a lot of chances I had during those to shoot videos. That, man, I would stop and I would take a picture, and the picture would be all that I took. And didn't think, hit record, Jared. Why don't you just hit damn record? Shit, there you go. Could have captured a moment instead of just a picture doesn't tell much of a story. Oh, it's got 1,000 words. No. A video's got, tells a sentence, something you can understand. Miniature cows, 2 pictures of miniature cows. They couldn't tell us were man, those things were so damn tiny. I'd never seen no cows that small. Little bitty baby ribeyes or something. I don't know. Really cute. They were super cute. Anything else that I might be missing? I hate to pause and not keep talking because people, but I'm up to 25 minutes I've been running on. Let's see, I got there, covered the first trip pretty much. The clutch and bell broke on Tony twice, so we knew that we needed the parts. We put them all together. He literally had forgot them, behind. That was an unintentional operator error there, but man, that forced error right there ended it for him in that way. There was no repairing that on the road. And certainly couldn't have called and ordered anything at that point either, it turns out. If he would have, we'd have been sitting there in Pascagoula for a week or more waiting on it to get there. You weren't going to get nothing overnighted anywhere. We were under the mistaken impression that the mail still worked, but no, apparently pandemic shut the mail down and all the shipping down in weird ways that was just not rational. That's all I can say about that. It just wasn't rational. When I'm standing there in Sanderson, Texas, outside the post office there, it says open with locked doors, you're like, what? This is crazy. Out in the middle of the West Texas desert, is there any, what are y'all, has something come here? Did somebody sneeze? Who's got the sniffles right now? Man, they're crazy people, dude. There's people out there who got really scared. So that really hurt the trip a lot. And it made it where you couldn't even approach people, and nobody wanted anything, and you couldn't get no sweet water, man. Shut the fountain drinks down. Why would y'all shut the fountain machines down? Yeah, I need my sweet water every day. I need it every day. So yeah. See, I've already made this video too long to even edit it now. That's one of the problems that I have with making these videos is the data it would take to put it in the editor and the data it takes to take it out of the editor. It has to be the same. So if it was 8 gigabytes going in, you need at least 8 gigabytes for it to come out. And I have a real problem with that a lot of times. And I don't know what the hell to do about all that. Here's one. Brian Knoll had asked a question about Chinese bikes and what I thought about them. So for this trip, I'm going to be riding on a Chinese bike, and I feel like a Chinese bike is a good bike, man. That they TIG weld the whole bike. I don't have any hang-ups with the parts and pieces. I rebuild the bike myself when I get one. I don't assume that they did a very good job putting it together, but they did a real good job of building the frame itself. I mean, these are really good frames, and I've got nowhere to knock them on that. Maybe their parts and pieces that go on them are some pretty low quality stuff, but even still, they fit. And so, I mean, I couldn't have made a piece better than that, and I ain't gonna spend that much on a bicycle. I'm just not gonna do it. That's not who I am. For that much, it's got to come with a set of keys, without a, so it's a bicycle. So I'm not really too hung up on if it's a great bike or not. My pedal bikes are usually pretty nice bikes, but they're usually used bikes. I'll buy an older used bike. I don't try to get any new bikes. That's not beneficial to me. Let me hit my safety meter real quick. Chance to do old Smokey shout out to Caleb Curtis Wentz. who was bike touring with his cat, and I think he finished his tour in San Diego from Jacksonville. I think he went all the way around America is what he did, but whatever. So there's a smoky shout out to Brian Noel and Caleb Curtis Works. And we do the old hacking shout out to Essie. Oh, Bike Life, cardio champion, bike man, cargo bike life, retro on his bikes. Wanna ride bike, whatever hella. Oh, you guys. I'd seen that Build Break Fix was posting some sort of photo collages of a trip that he was on just recently through this snowstorm and all, which is just absolutely amazing. I can't even imagine being out there freezing my butt off on that bike with ice on the ground. That's amazing. So I look forward to seeing whatever he's going to end up posting on that, if he does, or at least maybe do some sort of a talking review of it. I'd still like to hear about it. I see Little Evil starting to post some videos again, so that's always a good sign. Whatever. Excited to do a talking video for you guys. Hope it didn't bore you to death. I'm sure I missed everything that anybody